Hello, my name is Matthew Pfeiffer with mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, I create videos and content about toxic, narcissistically abusive relationships. And if you have a question that you would like for me to answer, make sure you send it to justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Just make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max. You're also very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's too long, if it's too lengthy, or if I don't understand what you're asking, unfortunately, I will not be able to get to it. Also, make sure you hit the bell notification and you also hit the subscribe notification so you're notified each and every time I upload a new video. With all that being said, let's get into today's email. Today's email comes from a person who is struggling with some co-parenting issues with a narcissist and is trying to control them, trying to control the writer through their daughter, through their teenage daughter. This is something that's very common when they start to take things out on the child in a way to control you. So let's break this down for this person. Let's see if we can come up with some answers and some solutions in this situation. So let's get into this. So this email reads, "Hey Matt, divorced 10 years, 50-50 custody, but my ex continues to use every single good event as a reason to fight. This is extremely common. This is extremely narcissistic. One of the reasons why narcissists do this, you may have heard me say this on this platform or other platforms before, it's common knowledge that narcissists like to be the center of attention. What a lot of people don't understand is that they like to be the center of attention, period. People assume that that means positive attention. It does not necessarily mean positive attention. They just want to be the center of attention. So even if that means to create drama and to cause chaos in the middle of an event, and that means that gives them the attention, then so be it for them, especially with an overt narcissist, right? And I'm hearing a lot of overt narcissism in this email. So let's get back into this. Now he won't let her go to a free service trip she earned unless I allow a tracking app or such on her phone. So you can hear the levels of control. And that's actually the reason why I mentioned overt narcissist, because of the bullying, right? That he won't let their daughter go on the trip unless the other person agrees to allow a tracking app. And we obviously know why the narcissist wants the tracking app on the phone, right? Not to track the daughter like he's probably saying, right? But more than likely to track the victim in this situation, because the children with narcissists are always the pawns, right? When really the narcissist is really trying to gain access to the other person. So let's continue with this email. For obvious reasons, I object to this kind of control, and we specifically stated in our order because of past abuses that we must agree on any new app that she puts on her phone. So I'm going to circle back to that here in a second. That's very important, because one of the things that you hear me say all the time, quite often we already have the answers, but sometimes we don't like the answers that we already have. So let's continue with this email, but we're going to circle back to that. The iPhone is in my name, my contract, but he always wants the passwords and such. Don't give it to him. I don't care how angry he gets. They will shut things down. I'll get into that here in a second. Daughter obviously just wants us to just agree to the app so she can go. How do I not be angry with her when it's all his doing? That is my biggest concern, is not to take it down on her. As she's getting older, it's getting harder. She's smart. She's almost 16. That's also important here too. We're not talking about a small child, right? 16 is still a child, but she's 16. She's book smart, has good grades. But when it comes to her dad, she knows he will make her life hell if she doesn't submit to him. Does it ever end? So let's break some of these things down. I want to circle back to this last sentence, right? That she knows that he will make her life hell if she doesn't submit to him. Quite often, a lot of times people take things out on children because of their own triggers. They don't like being controlled. They don't like being bullied by the narcissist. And when the child makes a decision to submit to what the narcissist is doing, quite often it gives us a flashback, it gives us an emotional trigger, and we start to think about when we were being controlled, when we're in the relationship. However, slightly different scenario now, right? You guys have been divorced for over 10 years. Yes, the narcissist is still trying to control, right? But guess what? You have a lot to say here. And we have to remember and to get to the point of you not wanting to take things out on the daughter, you have to understand her perspective, right? She's not trying to submit to him. It's not that she cares more about him. What your daughter is trying to do is she's trying to survive. She just wants to be a teenager. Obviously, she wants to go. Obviously, there's a lot of peer pressure involved in situations like this. But this has nothing to do in her mind between you and him, right? She's not choosing sides. She only is trying to survive. Now, let's get back into the app, the decision on what to do in situations like this. I wouldn't do it, right? And so the concern is, right, and this is where a lot of parents get stuck, because ultimately the child is the one that gets punished through this process. And a lot of times parents, especially when they struggle with people pleasing and codependency, they struggle with making this decision because they don't want to be the villain in the story. And we know, right, that this is what the narcissist is going to do. Well, it's your mom's fault that you can't go. Don't blame me. But we have to understand something. Your daughter already knows. She already knows. She may be pissed off at you if you decide not to put the app on. But we have to remember that there's bigger, much larger ramifications if you allow for the app to go on the phone. Remember, there's a reason. So I want to circle back to our bookmark where you said that in court, right? This isn't just some willy-nilly thing that just came up. In court, you guys made a decision that you must agree on all new apps because of past abuses, because of the abuse that you've endured in the past. We can't take that lightly. You've been through this scenario before, which is the reason why he's putting so much pressure here to make this happen, to make not her life a living hell, but ultimately to make your life a living hell, right? So one of your questions is, does it ever end? Yes, but you have to end it. You have to be okay with being the villain in this story. So yes, your daughter might pressure you because she's just trying to survive, right? But it's okay for her to think of you as the villain for now, because here's what's going to end up happening. This is what and I want to circle back to your daughter being 16 years old, you guys doing 50-50. Your ex is doing this for control. That's the obvious. Here's some things that you might not be seeing. You guys have been divorced for 10 years. He's still trying to control. Right? Still trying to control you through your daughter, but your daughter is 16 years old. What's going to end up happening through this process is that he's going to continue to try to control. 16, 17, he's not going to be 16 forever. 17, 18, 19, 20, right? And he's going to continue to try to control. You continue to set these boundaries. You continue to do what you know is right, even if it pisses your daughter off, because here's the reason why. She's going to start to see how controlling this person is. And what's going to end up happening is that she's going to start to see that her life cannot be normal if she continues to live under that person's rule. Right now, you guys are 50-50. I'm surprised that you guys were able to keep 50-50 to a point where she was 16. Right? Because a lot of times children, when they start getting to those ages, they start to pull back from those type of things. Right? But when she starts to see this level of control and it starts to impact her like this, right? She might blame you in the beginning, but eventually what's going to happen is she's going to start to notice a pattern, right? And it's important for you to create open dialogue, allowing for her to vent, allowing for her to talk. So then she feels comfortable talking to you about different things and venting to you. The other thing that ends up happening is that, once again, as she gets older, this level of control is going to continue. And so this is how you actually teach your children about narcissistic abuse, right? Is for them to actually experience some of it, right? But then they also have a home. They also have a place that they can go to and they can vent, and they get the validation that they need through this process as well. And eventually what's going to end up happening is she's going to start to see her dad for who he actually is. She's going to start to make some decisions. And one other thing that's going to happen that not a lot of people talk about is that you have some people that are in her ear that are going to help validate your story and validate what she's going through, and is going to call the dad out for his bad behavior. That's her friends. People talk so much, and it's common knowledge that friends have a direct impact, right? That we listen to our friends when we're in our teenage years. And a lot of times people look at that as a negative thing in terms of peer pressure. But more often than not, when it comes to this type of stuff, right, what happens is that when your daughter starts to talk to her friends, and when she says, I can't go, and tells the story, guess what? Her friends are going to say, your dad's a prick. Your dad's an asshole, right? There's going to be times where they may not want to go over when she's at his house and they might say, well, if you're at your mom's house, I don't mind coming over. If you're at your dad's house, fuck that. I'm not coming over. Your dad's a prick. Your dad's an asshole. Your dad's controlling, right? Let's fast forward that a little bit further. When she starts dating and he starts to try to control who she dates and what she's doing, things of that nature, right? And I'm not talking about in a loving, protective father type of way, right? But you shouldn't date him. You need to date the mayor's son, and trying to direct her on who she should date and things of that nature. It always backfires, right? So number one, make sure that you keep an open atmosphere, direct dialogue, allowing for her to vent, even if she's upset. Be okay with her being upset with you. A great book on that, I always recommend The Conscious Parent, and also The Awakened Family, because that also requires a lot of emotional regulation on your end as well, right? But allow for some of this stuff to happen. Continue to set this boundary, because there's much bigger ramification. If he gets your passwords, if he's able to track you, right, it is a lot more difficult to unwind that. And obviously, you've probably dealt with a lot of stalking from him in the past, right? So hold that boundary. Unfortunately, she might not be able to go, but that's his problem, not yours, right? But be okay with being the villain in this story. So thank you very much for writing in. Anyone else who has a question, make sure you send it to justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max, and you're also very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's too long, if it's too lengthy, unfortunately, I will not be able to get to it. With all that being said, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video. You guys have a good one.